The other piece, when we talk about context that we see, and I got to keep an eye on time, I'll talk up here all day. Somebody keep me honest here. So the other piece, when we talk about context, this context dimension, is globalization, right? We're seeing customers really grapple with this, where they have regional differences across different parts of their organization for global companies, but they also have standard processes. I was working with a customer in Scotland, a financial services company, and what was amazing to me is when we were interviewing their executives were pointing out, well, you know, we have a group in Asia Pac, they have a process for opening new accounts. We have our group here in the UK, they have a process. Our Canada group, you know, all these different groups have different process for opening new accounts. Then on top of that, this is where it gets kind of fun and turns into a Rubik's Cube. They also have a different process for each channel, right? So web, the actual customer coming into the branch, mobile, they're trying to get, and they have all of these different processes, right? And it's really about, for them, it's really about how do we get context, have this layer, if you will, or piece at the bottom that says, this is how all the processes run. This is how all the processes operate. But then get the local version of the process that deals with regulations. And so it's really about this globalization, getting the work to the right person, but also dealing with the localization picture. So you really have to grapple with those. And definitely BPM helps, but again, bringing in that data view, where am I, what region am I in, what channel is the customer coming across? Why do you think this is important? And I work with, like I said before, I work with a lot of customers around this, but it took me a second for the light bulb to actually go off as I was working with these customers. I guess I shouldn't admit that, but why do you think this is important to deal with this? Why do you think? Is your name Freedom? Wow, that's a pretty cool name. Why do you think this is important, Freedom? Why do we have to deal with this local and dealing with the channels in a little bit more consistent but flexible way? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm not good on the spot.
Okay, I'll answer for you. It's important because customers are beginning to jump across channels to define their experience. Think about the customer, the client that I just called out. What if one customer actually had accounts across all of their regions? Right? They get a different experience. They'd be dealing with a different bank. And the company, because they don't have context, they can't even begin to upsell or cross-sell the customer, right? Because they don't really know who this customer is. They just have that one view. And so it's really important in terms of being able to drive new opportunity, drive different outcomes for customers to begin to bring this view in. So the last piece is cloud. So when we talk about cloud, a lot of cloud for BPM has been around how do I get product or how do I get the process built and out to my end users faster, right? So a lot of the customers that I talked to over the last couple of years, they've looked at cloud as a way to actually drive faster, accelerated, agile development, push it out to their client base. But we're also starting to see customers look to cloud as a way to actually, number one, drive down costs, of course, that's already there, but to also get rid of the need for in-house staff, but more importantly, starting to look across their value stream and say, how do I actually put pieces that may be non-core or maybe better off into the cloud? And so we're beginning to see customers make these hybrid clouds, right? Some parts of my value stream I put in the cloud, some parts I leave on premise. And this is really an important point. And so when we look at how this will evolve, we're definitely seeing customers move from a traditional model of everything on premise. So if you look at the key legend down there, on premise, back office, front office, distribution, all of my processes on premise to deliver to the customer. What we're seeing happen now are customers are beginning to look and say, okay, well, there's certain parts of the value stream I can actually put in the cloud, right? I can put this piece in the cloud, leave it connected to other pieces that may be on premise. What we see when we move closer to 2017 is this transparency, where there's pieces in the cloud, pieces on premise, but they're much more interconnected. In today's world, these pieces are not interconnected. We did research around changes in the health payer industry. How many of you are health payers or in healthcare? Just by show of hands. I know Appian has some. Yep. One of the things we found that was really interesting. One of the companies we interviewed pointed out that, okay, the holy grail for me is actually being able to have clinical data and administrative data together. So with electronic medical records, but also with Health Reform Act, we can actually give better quality of care and actually begin to do better wellness because we can bring these two things together. I was like, that's pretty cool. But what I asked him was, if you remember, a couple of clicks back, a couple of sentences back, you said you're looking to put your call center out in the cloud. So that's going to be a lot of your, and actually call center and claims, right? That's going to be a lot of your claim data. How are you actually going to keep that connected to the admin data, right? How are you going to bring those two things together? And that's what a lot of customers don't keep in mind is when the process gets fragmented like this, you still have to think about how do I keep these things in line? How do I keep the data from clinical connected to admin? But you have to think through that piece in terms of being able to think through cloud.